In the previous chapter on the benefits of manual focus, James mentioned how the amount of light you have, as well as how much you're zoomed into your subject, will affect how hard or easy it is to focus. This has to do with a concept called depth of field. Depth of field describes how deep your focus will be. In other words, it's a term that describes how many objects will remain in focus in your frame at one focus setting. If you have a large depth of field, that means that more objects at various distances from your camera are in focus. In this case, we're wondering how many of these hurdles can remain in focus without having to change the focus ring during the shot. The first factor that affects depth of field is the amount of light you have. Here, it's a bright sunny day. We have a lot of light, so it's easy to keep things in focus. Even if we move the focus ring, most of the hurdles stay in focus. So here we have a great depth of field. But now it's the end of the day and we don't have much light left. Therefore, we don't have as much depth of field. As you can see, not as many of the hurdles are in focus now. And as the runner runs, we have to adjust the focus ring to keep him in focus. To reiterate, in this shot, less of the hurdles are in focus because we're zoomed in. We're at a long focal length, and if we zoomed out, more of the hurdles would be in focus at one time.
Welcome back. Over here. Now, in addition to light, the other important factor affecting depth of field is focal length. Now, with most consumer-grade digital cameras, you don't have to worry too much about focal length because they've already come with a zoom lens. To make your lens telephoto or long, you simply zoom into your subject. Now, zoomed into me like we are here is the equivalent of a long focal length. Generally speaking, there's less depth of field and fewer objects are in focus in this shot. Now, if we zoom out to a wider angle shot of me, that's the equivalent of a short focal length or short lens. In this shot, there's more depth of field and there are more objects in focus in the frame.
To review, when you're zoomed in, it's hard to focus, and when you're zoomed out, it's easier to focus. And that covers the basics of depth of field. It depends on the amount of light you have and what your focal length is. If you know your depth of field, then you will know how attentive or inattentive you have to be when focusing your camera. Now we're going to get a little more advanced. The lenses on camcorders have become so good that sometimes too many things are in focus in our frame. Here, for example, maybe we want the runner to be in focus, but not all the hurdles. So we need to reduce our depth of field. In order to reduce our depth of field, we need to open up our iris all the way. But first we pop on some neutral density filters to darken the image, which forces us to open up the iris in order to compensate. With the iris open up all the way, our depth of field has finally been reduced. Now we're just focusing on the runner, and the other hurdles are out of focus.